Hi everyone, good evening. Today is another episode of Let's Talk. Welcome to this episode. If you are just joining us, we use this episode, this channel to talk about Nigerian situation. We talk about corruption, politics, police brutality, and the way forward for Nigeria. If you have been following us, you know that Nigeria just conducted their general election in February 25th. And that election created a lot of confusion and commotion that led to tribunal. If you are aware that two of the contestants today, Peter Obi of the Labour Party and the Atiku Abubakar of the People Democratic Party, are still currently in court challenging the election result that was declared by Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, which is the body that conducts election in Nigeria. So we've been brainstorming on what is the possibility of Nigeria moving forward now that Mr. Tinubu has been sworn in, despite the case being in court. All right, so we have someone today, which we promised last week. We have someone today who is a political analyst who is going to talk about this situation in Nigeria. His name is Nosa Ogiehor. He is a resident in the United Kingdom. He's very involved in Nigeria politics, and he has a lot to say today. Mr. Ogiehor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Election happens in Nigeria on February 25th. Yeah. Nigeria, they have these very high expectations of what was going to happen on that day, but a lot of them felt disappointed. What's your take on that election?
Well, I mean, the election process itself has, even INEC itself has, kind of alluded to the fact that it did not even meet up to their own standards.
Okay.
It did not meet up to INEC standard. It did not meet up to the standard that the international observers expected.
Okay.
If you have seen the report from the local observers as well, it actually did not meet up to their expectations. And definitely did not meet up to the expectations of Nigerians as well.
Okay. So you consider it as a shortfall. It was a disappointing election conduction. Would you say?
Well, I mean, we all have our own opinions, and we all have our take, and we all come from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So you will agree with me that we probably, some of us think that majority of Nigerians are disappointed at the outcome of the process, not necessarily the result of the election itself, but the process that actually led to that.
Okay.
So quite a few things that actually happened before, during, and immediately after the election that has created this distrust between.
Alright, welcome back, and we do apologize for the technical situation. We got disconnected while we were broadcasting. We were hearing from our experienced, illustrious political analyst, Paul Ogiehor, who is with us today in the studio. Again, if you are just joining the program, please make your comment below, and we will be reading your comment out if possible. Don't forget to call in. We do have, we are going to put a number on the screen for you to call in, and also ensure that you share this content while we are talking, because it's for the benefit of everyone. As we were talking, February 25th was Nigerian general election, and there were a lot of confusion, a lot of killings, a lot of ballot stealing, and a lot of challenges right now in court from the People Democratic Party candidate Atiku Abubakar and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. Right now, our tribunal is finished. They're now waiting for the result. But that doesn't mean Nigeria is still where it ought to be. Mr. Tinubu, who was declared winner by INEC, is now making things happen, not changing some policies in Nigeria. So today, one of the reasons we invited Paul Ogiehor to talk about this whole situation that have caused so much confusion, so much anger and disappointment and distrust in Nigeria electoral system. Mr. Ogiehor, again, thank you for joining us. I do apologize for what happened to us, and it never really happened. So here we were talking about the election in Nigeria. You did talk about how the seeds of mistrust have been sown in the minds of Nigeria in the last election. Can you please try to elucidate more on that?
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you to the listeners at home for their patience and for that small technical hint. It's a bit of a mirage. What we actually saw, very clear, open impunity on the part of INEC, not actually daring all consequences, not actually caring or don't even sensitive to the yearnings of the Nigerian people. So it was an open drama and an open theater. What we saw on television, how the final result was announced around 4 a.m. at night, and the process that actually also led to the collation of the result, the process that INEC has set for itself, not following that through, not keeping up to their own the promises that they made before the election, and also somehow deliberately sabotaging itself, so these were all, combination of all of this has actually created that distrust that you were talking about.
Yeah, but INEC believe that the election they announced was the real result. There was no fraud, there was no manipulation, there was nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we have the court for, right? And that's the reason why the candidates are in court. So in due course, we will know what the outcome of that process will be. But from some of the things that we saw, if you promised that you were going to have a live transmission of results to the INEC Irish server, and that never happened. And from what we know today, there was actually no technical glitch.
Okay.
We have had witnesses come from the service provider where the INEC service is domiciled, coming to court to testify that there was no technical glitch. And some of us who also understand how the Amazon AWS system works, the possibility of that kind of technical glitch was, in my opinion, was completely zero.
Okay.
So it wasn't possible that we were going to have a situation where the service will not run as expected, right? So I will tell you this: the INEC AWS platform is one of the safest data center provisioning in the world.
Okay.
So someone just can't wake up and tell you that, oh, well, the server was under attack. That was the first message that came out, and then it got to the point where they could no longer sustain that lie. So they now said it was a technical glitch. So what kind of technical glitch was that? How would the technical glitch just on the same day affect the transmission of the presidential result, but did not affect the transmission of the other results? So, and the INEC deliberately sabotaging itself and creating this, shroud of, uncertainty and distrust around the whole process. It's something that is completely new in the Nigerian electoral system.
Yes, because whenever Nigerians says they are going to try to move to the next level in the conduction of election, there is always this problem of, the system is bad. It's not the first time. When the new machine they brought forward, they assured Nigerians it was going to be free and fair, it was going to be transparent. The observer or the INEC official would just upload the result right from the polling unit, so that there will be no manipulation, no time for people to adjust the figures. So INEC chairman Mahmood was in different conferences where he assured Nigerians that there was going to be transparency the election or the conduction of the election. My question here now is, don't you think someone needed to be held responsible for what happened?
I think we are going to come to that, to be honest. The whole process and the whole abracadabra, whatever they call it, INEC, displayed in front of the whole world is something that is unheard of in the Nigerian context. So we know that you don't expect election to be free and completely free and fair. We are not quite there yet. Although I would say to you that we have the capacity to conduct a free and fair election. We have the people, we have the technical expertise, and we have the capacity to do it. But whether the political class will allow that to happen, that's a different thing altogether. So you have a situation where especially those who are in power, believes that it is their statutory right to stay there forever. And what do they need this power? What do they want this power for? What do they need this power for? What do they need this power for? If they actually use for is it used for the benefit of Nigeria? So
obviously not, because we see the situation in Nigeria now. That the almost becoming the poorest country of the world, and with the rate of what's it called, poverty there is becoming alarming. So with huge resources in the country and with limited distribution of these same resources, this will cause a lot of problems. So yes, people fight to go into these political offices, but for their own benefit and that of their families.
I think the political class, Nigerian political class, has become immune to the challenges of problems in Nigeria. I don't think that they go there all for the sake of engendering or envisioning development. So we all know that people now just go in there, and politics has now become the only vocation. You see how crowded.
You don't need to work for it, you just get paid.
You see how crowded the political space is. Anyone who is not in there is actually trying to get in there. So and then you ask yourself the question, what do you need that power for? What do you want that power for? What is the whole purpose of the whole thing? Even personal greed has a limit.
But that is why I don't understand, Mr. Ogiehor. What I don't understand is the people that are in this position, they were once those complaining of the political system. They were the one that said they wanted change. They want to go there and make the difference. But with the moment they get there, they just forget their promises, and they become the same people they used to criticize. What is wrong with the Nigerian system?
Well, I mean, it is all economics. So if there are not enough economic opportunities to go around, that's what happened in the situation. So everyone is crowded into a very small space where they think that the resources are, and everyone is just trying to help themselves to some. So it's purely economics. It's really far that, especially for the last 7-8 years, we have not been able to grow the economy. We have not been able to create any tangible economic opportunities for
production.
People. So when you get yourself in a situation like that, what happens is that everyone, you becomes a victim of the system. So that's exactly what is playing out in Nigeria today. Everyone is a victim of the system. Even the so-called people who are in government do not trust the system. They do not trust the Nigerian system to give them a comfortable life, right? They do not know what will happen to them tomorrow. So everyone wants to take as much as they can, against the rainy day.
Even some of them, what they are keeping, they can't even spend for their lifetime.
Well, I don't know. Does that greed has a limit? It should have a limit, to be honest. So you saw what happened during currency exchange exercise. We were seeing video clips of money, raw cash, just
lying down somewhere in the house,
wasting away in a warehouse, and some even not legal tender anymore.
No.
So it's really a crazy world that we have there. So I think it's all connected to the fact that we have not been able to grow our economies for a while.
But how do we grow our economy if those resources have been pilfered, and if those people who should grow the economy are not even willing to, because they all want to enrich themselves? I think that is a major problem. So now let me run back to the election on 25th of February. Now we have Mr. Tinubu sworn in. Do you think it was a good idea to swear the new president in when the tribunal was on, the election was being challenged in the court?
Well, you can't leave the country in a vacuum, right?
Okay.
So a government was constitutionally required to vacate the seat. So you can't leave a situation where no one is in charge, and that's not that would not be good for the country, and that could create not just only constitutional crisis, but that could also create quite a lot of other difficult problems as well that we might not easily get out of. So I understand the consequences of that action as well. So when you swear somebody in, it becomes very difficult to get rid of him.
Yeah, because he's there now, he's the president, he has power. All he needs to do is just make a phone call to whoever is there to say, this is the president, this is what I want you to do. In a country where we don't have control, we don't seem to have self-control over the need for power, we quickly just abide by those demands, just say we are almost yes sir in spirit, let me put it that way. So do you think Mr. Obi still has a chance?
Well,
that's my question.
The precedent is that no presidential election result has ever been overturned by the court.
Okay.
Nigeria. So that's the fact. That's the basic fact. And I have my doubts if this will be an exception, right?
Okay.
But there will be consequences, right? So there are consequences to running a government without the mandate from the people. So, and sooner or later, I think we will all come to terms with that. Some of the consequences are not that going to be easy to live with. So you have a government that is not legitimate, unless we have a situation where, if he wins in court, where that probably might help a little bit to overcome the legitimacy question. But the point is, how many Nigerians will accept that? So, and what will be the consequences of majority of Nigerians not accepting the fact that yes, this is the man that we voted for? And don't also forget that this is the very first time in Nigerian political history or electoral history where a candidate who didn't score majority of the votes. So you would need to understand that majority of Nigerians, even the result that was declared by INEC, majority of Nigerians did not vote for him, right? So
he knows that.
He did not secure up to 50% of the votes. So that's in itself is already a problem. So that could also kind of like create a legitimacy problem. So what I believe is going to happen is this. So if at the end of the day, if he wins in court, he will have a very tough, difficult 4 years, right? He will have a very tough, difficult 4 years. What do I mean by that? He will probably find it very difficult to find good people to work with, right? That's on one side.
You think so?
Yeah, well, we will see. You will see how that will play out. They will find it very difficult to find some good people to work with. So he will have difficulty establishing his authority over all the systems and processes that run the government machine.
Yeah, but let me quickly chip in there. Do you? What I asked you just now, do you think so? Because I see that member of the Labour Party now, some of them are already saying, asking their leader Peter Obi to drop the case and support Tinubu. So there is a possibility that even the those who are opposition before are going to fold themselves into Tinubu's system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just only talking about working with Nigerians. I'm also talking about working with the international community.
Okay.
Working with donor organizations. Working with various credit rating agencies and things like that. So there are consequences to not having a clear mandate, right? So you have you see one of the fallout of that election, was the fact that the governorship election that took place a few weeks after the presidential election, you saw the general apathy of Nigerians. People not coming out to exercise their franchise.
Yeah,
right? So what is the point of going to vote? Why would I go and vote when I am not sure the system, my vote would count in the system? So that kind of situation is very dangerous for a government to operate in, right? Because you will have situation where the government, at best, the government will be ignored. You could have situations where the government could be sabotaged, right? You could have situation where you will have a lot of civil unrest. You could have situation where people will resist nearly almost every government policy. So there are consequences to all that, and we're already seeing signs of that, right? So I mean, I saw a news clip somewhere where someone is drawing a list of about 17 things that they think Tinubu has achieved so far, and one of them is that where photograph with the 36 governors, right? And another was, he had a meeting with the service chiefs. So people are already counting those as achievement by his government. So that would tell you how difficult it would be for him in the next 4 years. So
in Nigeria, they are very particular about the first 100 days in the office. I think this is where it's going to come to, because I'm looking forward to what they are going to list as his achievement in the next 100 days. He's fired some head of parastatals now, and then he's trying to make some changes, and but what exactly has he done since he became the president? What do you think? What do you think he has achieved so far, apart from the firing and the holding meetings and taking pictures with head of state? What has he done so far?
As I said earlier, I've seen a list of about 17 items that they listed as part of his achievement so far, which is being able to be on a photo shoot with governors, with service chiefs and foreign diplomats and things like that. So you tell me, during the electionary campaign, did you see President Tinubu deliver a more than 2 minutes speech or 2 minutes address, where he will stand for about 2 minutes to deliver a speech or deliver an address? Did you see anything more than that?
No, that is what fueled the speculation that he was very unwell because he couldn't stand properly. There was always someone standing behind him to support him. To climb stair was a little bit difficult. In fact, they had to release a video where he was on a treadmill or something, bicycle, just to show to Nigerians that he was fit enough to rule.
So you see where the desperation comes from, where people desperately want to show off anything as his achievement, just to convince people that Tinubu has achieved this, Tinubu has achieved that, or Tinubu has done this, or Tinubu has done that. Because during the election, I did not see President Tinubu stand for more than 2 minutes to deliver any address. So
he even had the opportunity to actually address a lot of people. That's when he went to Chatham House. But instead of him doing his job there by responding to queries, what he did was to appoint and pick some of his delegates, asking them to answer the question on his behalf. Have you ever seen the president do that before? What does that tell you of his presidency?
I mean, I mean, with due respect to the president himself, I personally don't have anything against him. I don't even know him as a person. So, and I think that he's capable mentally, but I don't know whether he is physically ready for the job. So, but there are people who desperately want to have him there, right? They want to have him there for reasons that are best known to you and me. And that's not for the interest of Nigerians, right? So, and that's going to be a very big, difficult challenge, yeah? So you have a situation where nearly almost everything, if Mr. Tinubu stands up, there are people that will celebrate that.
They'll just clap.
They will celebrate that as an achievement. So what do you think as a country, where do you think we could take the country to in that kind of situation? So I'll tell you some of the crisis of confidence that we already have, right? Which most people don't see yet, right? I have always said that every country needs, and you will see it around the world, people don't play with 3 different aspects of the security architecture, right? One of them is the physical security of securing your territorial borders, of making sure you have the capability, or you have the armed forces to defend your border. Secondly is food security, right? And the third, which is the one that actually affects people the more and affects the economy the more, is energy security. So no country in the world plays with any of these 3 things, right? So you will see, for example, that a country like China has learned quite a lot from history, right? Because if you look at the immediate past history, you will see, for example, that China and India were the economic powerhouse of the world before 1850, right? So as at 1850, for example, the whole of European Union that they call EU today had a total of about 21% of world GDP, and Asia had nearly almost 60%, about 59% of world GDP. That's how very powerful China and India were in around the 1850 time frame. So what happened? Few things happened within that period, just before the 19th century, right? There was slave trade and there was colonialism. And that colonialism and slave trade helped Europeans get access to cheap slave labor. Helped Europeans to get access to slave trade labor, and also helped Europeans to get access to the resources in Africa. Yeah, and one of those resources that they had access to was coal. And it was at a time when the world was actually transitioning from relying on wood as energy source to coal. And China made the mistake of allowing the West to get ahead of them to source that a very important energy source. And that was actually how the Industrial Revolution came about, and before we knew it, the West had overtaken Asia in the economic struggle, development. So what I'm trying to explain with that short analysis of history is for you to understand how very important energy security is to any country. So you will see, for example, in the past, say for the past 30 years, what China is all over the place, especially all over the place in Africa, where they have this, commodities, where they have these energy sources, right? So because they have actually learned from history, and they don't want to make the same mistake that they made previously. Okay, what happened to us in Nigeria? We had a transition between one government and another, right? Fortunately for Nigeria, the government transitioning from the same party to a new government of the same party. So you will expect that it will be a seamless,
smooth continuation.
Smooth, because they had espoused and sessions where they actually compared notes and tried to do the handover in a very smooth and cordial way, right? So it wasn't something that was done in a poison situation. So what happened? One government handed over to the other, not having money to continue the payment of subsidies, so that the Nigerians could benefit from that, right? Well, that's a completely whole new discussion. So nothing affects an economy more than a disruption to energy supply. So you saw what happened also a few days with Abuja and the cities in Nigeria becoming closed, people not getting access to petrol and all that, and the petrol price doubling and triple and quadruple in a very short space of time.
Yeah, so that's what I was coming to, this first subsidy removal.
Yes.
Some people now, we believe Tinubu is the one that removed the subsidy. But some people are also pointing fingers at Mr. Buhari. Because Tinubu just openly said he took a gander at the budget that there was no provision for the subsidy. So that means it actually came from Buhari. Previously, Buhari had said it was going to be removed in the second quarter of 2023. There was a news to that effect as well. But my question is, the removal of fuel subsidy, do you think it was a good move for Nigeria? Because there was no preparation, there was no plans. It was just sudden, it was quick. Do you think there could have been a better way to remove subsidy than the way it was handled by the government?
Well, I mean, if you keep subsidies, it is supposed to be for the benefit of Nigerians, right? If you remove subsidy and then government revenue increases, that should also be for the benefit of Nigerians as well. So either way, whether you keep the subsidy or you remove the subsidy, it shouldn't really be that much of a big deal. What is much of a big deal is how it was managed, right? So I don't know. I mean, in the 2023 budget, there was provision for payment of subsidy up to the end of June. Yeah. So I think the Buhari government made a provision for about 2.7 billion US dollars, right, to pay for subsidy, and nothing else from that point on. So Mr. Tinubu himself did not actually have any choice. So there's some money left, right? So, and we're already in a situation where government is struggling with meeting its recurrent expenditure. So about 97-98% of our revenue in 2022 was actually used for debt servicing. So no country can survive that type of situation. So one way or the other, something has to give, and the only thing that they could think of was removal of subsidy. But let us look at that subsidy regime, right? But my opinion personally is that whether you keep the subsidy or you remove the subsidy is not the problem. What the problem was for me is the management of the subsidy regime, right? So you remember in 2012, the House of Representatives conducted an investigation into subsidy payment, and then they discovered quite a lot of things. For example, in one day, in 24 hours, about $23 million were paid to NNPC paid about $23 million to several unknown people, right? They couldn't.
Today, we do apologize for these technical challenges. We were just cut short in the middle of a very good analysis from our guest today, Paul Ogiehor, who's come to the studio to talk to us concerning the last presidential election in Nigeria, talked about Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency and Peter Obi, INEC and the rest of it. We're just on fuel subsidy just now when we go this disconnection. Again, we apologize for the inconvenience this is causing to everyone. Please don't forget to share and comment on this video, and don't forget to invite other people to join in as well. We are going to go back to the topic, but before then, let's just quickly show us or go on a quick break. Well, if you are just joining us, this is Let's Talk Show with Ehi Ekhator. We talk about everything Nigeria here. We talk about the politics, the dirtiness. We talk about corruptions. We talk about the way forward for Nigerian youths now that the new government has been installed in power. So if you are just joining us, please don't forget to call in. The number is going to be on screen for everyone to call in. It's right on the screen. The topic is also there if you want to make a comment on the comment section. Let's go back to subsidy now. We were talking about the subsidy removal just now, the effect it has on Nigerians.
Right.
Okay, can you please give us a little dive into that aspect again?
Great point. Well, problem with removing subsidy when you don't have a proper management strategy in place is that the shock to the economy, right? So every country in the world has something that they subsidize for their citizens, right? You saw the announcement this morning from Ofgem. Ofgem is the regulatory agency for energy matters in the UK. They have actually placed a cap on energy costs per every household. So
in the UK.
In the UK, so
yes.
everyone, no household will pay more than £2,074 pounds for the whole year. And last year was about 3,200. So they reduced that now. So that tells you how very important subsidies can be if it is properly managed.
Welcome back again. We've been having technical difficulties today. We do apologize for the inconvenience. Well, let's just dive in right into where we stopped. This is all about the Nigerian politics. We stopped at talking about the fuel subsidy removal and the effect it has on Nigerians. And Mr. Ogiehor was telling us the effect it could have, and was using UK as a reference point to make his point about Nigerian subsidy removal. Mr. Ogiehor, we're very sorry for the technical issue today, and again we are very happy you join us right in the studio today. So let's just dive back to the subsidy. What were you on that subsidy? You were telling about Afghan and the UK and in Nigeria, and how the government can sustain its energy sector.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I said from the very beginning, that those three security architecture that government don't play with anywhere in the world: food security, military security, protection of the territorial integrity of the country, and energy security. There's no government in the world, anywhere in the world, that actually plays with that. So you don't gamble with energy security. So one of the things that I see, which I personally am not really that quite happy with, is what is our energy security strategy. So that's something that is not clear to so many Nigerians. So if we have one, what is it, right? So the removal of subsidy is not necessarily a problem, right? So how you manage that, the timing, and the necessary things that you put in place, and the after effect shock. So how you deal with all that, that's where the problem will be. So and as I was saying previously, if you keep the subsidy, right, it was supposed to benefit Nigerians. Yeah. But what we have seen over the years is that they say subsidizing Nigerian petroleum sector, the top 20% of the population benefits twice as much as the bottom 20% of the population.
Yes.
So that is not what I would call a reasonable subsidy regime. That is not a reasonable subsidy regime. That in itself is not, how is that fair? Not equitable, right? So you can have a subsidy regime where only about 5% or 10% or 20% of the top of the population benefits more than the rest of the population. So how do you then fairly share the burden around? So that was one issue in the Nigeria subsidy regime. The second issue was that it was also riddled with frauds. And I was talking about the investigation that the House of Representatives did in 2012. The report was very damning, right? About NNPC paying nearly 23 million in less than 24 hours to several accounts that could not be traced to anyone, right? So many things happening. So you can't have a situation where you say, oh, we are subsidizing for Nigerian people, but in the actual sense, it is actually not getting to the right people. So that is not a progressive subsidy regime. So that's on one side. So on the other side, if you actually also remove the subsidy, then it means that you can do away with all those fraud and do away with all those unequitable distribution of subsidy to the generality of Nigerians, and government will also earn more money, right? So that's the whole purpose. Government will earn more money. But the question is, what will happen to that money? Will that money really end up being used for the Nigerian people? Will it go into education? Will it go into health services?
That's a tricky question.
Yes, so will it go into education? Will it go into health services? Or will it help Nigeria to bridge the infrastructure deficit gap? So, at the end of the day, does it really make that much difference to the ordinary Nigerian on the street whether there is subsidy or the subsidy is actually being removed? Because at the end of the day, the same people that were benefiting from the subsidy when it was kept on, the same people, using it as a conduit fire to defraud the country, the system are the same people who would benefit when you remove the subsidy, because the extra income, the extra revenue that will come to government will also end up in their pocket. It's a double-edged sword.
That takes me back to my first question earlier. The question was, where is accountability in the Nigerian system? Because whatever we're talking about here, it ends up in corruption. Then corruption, and everyone gets away with it. Now the subsidy has been removed, and the government, the moment Mr. Tinubu announced subsidy removal, a group in Nigeria, the anti-corruption group in Nigeria called SERA, he wrote to the president asking him to launch an investigation into many years of subsidy payments that they believe
were those people
exactly. But the president, who is Mr. Tinubu right now, has not done anything, and so they've dragged him to court. In that essence, challenging him, to forcing him, a responsible government. You are not supposed to force a responsible government to take action against people who've stolen from the public coffers. But if you are doing that, where do you think the Nigerian system is going into? Is it going to the dogs? Is it going to get better? Because we don't see any improvement, not from the old government that says that ran on the idea of fighting corruption, and not even with this new one that just started. And no head is rolling at the moment. Because we believe when the government changes hands, there will be a lot of investigation ongoing. People will be jailed, people will be sent to prison, or even charged to court for corruption. Nothing has happened. Everything just remains silent. What is going on?
Yeah, the point is, what is the purpose of government, right? So if you come into government, what are you coming into government to do, right? So everyone has got his own pain points or pain area and things that are dear to him or her that he would like to see, government take on board or improve on. So the whole question of accountability or non-accountability is all grounded in economics, right? So, as I said earlier, if there are not enough economic opportunities for the people, you will have widespread low-level corruption. That's what we have in Nigeria, low-level corruption. But the so-called low-level corruption in Nigeria now, especially in the last few years, has been taken to a completely new, different level. So,
because they got away with it when they were low level.
Yeah. So where it used to be really done discreetly and where you only have suspicion of what has happened, why don't we have this and all that? Everything is not done openly, right? So you remember
There's no fear.
You remember the popular off the mic or that's okay, that's okay, that's okay. Public TV where a minister is being shut down because is actually revealing quite a lot of inner secret that some people will not feel comfortable, saying.
A governor was caught taking kickbacks from contractors. The president went to contest or campaign for him for a second term. Now, where does this stop? That is my question.
And that's the regime that was actually came into power on the
premise
of fighting corruption.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all rooted in economics, right? So if you look at our immediate history, only 7 economists six countries. So because China and Hong Kong are now fully integrated into one economic unit, right? So 7 economists have made the transition from a low-income economy, what they call third world economy, to a high-income economy, what they call the first world economy. Only 7 economies, 6 countries have made the transition in the last 50 years, right? And according to the World Bank, for a country to be able to make that transition from a low-income country to a high-income country, you must have a minimum of about 4.5% GDP growth continuously uninterrupted for a period of about 45 to 50 years, right? So Nigeria was on that growth trajectory. So between 1999 and 2015, we had an average 6.5 GDP growth year on year.
That was when Nigeria was the third fastest growing economy in the world.
Was one of the third fastest growing economy in the world.
What happened?
The point is, what happened? So where is the convergence of opinion? Where is the convergence of ideas about what progress actually is? How would the people recognize a government that is performing? Why would the people vote out a government that is performing and bring a government in that will set everything back?
That doesn't have a legacy of actually improving the economy. The man they voted for that back in 2015, the man they voted for back in was a man that ruled in around 83, 85.
1983, 84. That was also the period when we had what they call price control.
Exactly.
But
the economy went to the dogs.
Yeah, if you remember then, we also used to queue for what they call essential commodities.
Yes.
So you go to John Holt's, Urban Market Road, and queue for milk and sugar.
Because they want Nigeria to be disciplined. Yeah. So now that's why because they brought that idea, they thought he was Mr. Discipline, and they brought it under his regime. During his time as the head of state back then, he did not take responsibilities. We are not talking about Mr. Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari. He didn't take responsibility for the fall of the economy in 1983 to 1985. He didn't do it. And when he came back from 2015, he didn't take responsibility for the many inflations and a bad economy, bad policies that took place under his time. He didn't take. Why? How did Nigerians make that decision that we were the fastest growing, one of the fastest growing economy in the world? Then we switched because we believe we needed our economy to be faster. So we switched it from there to a man that we didn't even know. That there was no record of him performing.
Yeah, well, you could use propaganda to win election, but would propaganda also help you put good policies in place? Probably not. So that's exactly what happened. So I mean, that's now behind us. So let's
is it?
Let's look forward. So it's behind us. What can we do? Mr. Buhari is now relaxing somewhere and careless. Even when he was president, he was completely aloof.
He said he wanted to go home.
He didn't care so much about what happened.
There were many articles where he said, I want to go home.
Right.
He said, I have done my best. I have nothing else to get. He was confessing publicly that Nigerians voted for a bigger change.
Yeah. So, as we were saying, the problem with Nigeria with the low-level corruption has its roots in economy. So the fact that we have not been able to grow our economy for the past few years, it has gotten into everyone. So it's a very difficult situation that we have been in. Yeah, very difficult situation.
With this bottleneck inflation that we have now, it's spiral out of control. Today we have pounds up to about close to 1,000 naira exchange in Nigeria. This is a very huge. I understand Nigeria they don't use pounds. I get it, but it has a very significant effect on the Nigerian system because the minimum wage there is they cannot afford to buy anything with this. The government wanted Nigerian government to increase the minimum wage to at least $30,000 the last time. Many governors they protested it. They said they couldn't afford it. They didn't have enough or extra to add to the money. But now there are speculations. I don't know if you are aware. The speculations that the government wants to increase their salary by 14%. How true do you think this is? And if it is possible, do you think this is fair on those people who couldn't get 30,000 as a minimum wage compared to now people who wants to get 114% increase?
Well, we've had official denial of that anyway. So the money is even not there for any increase in salary. But whether it's increasing salary of anyone or not, Nigeria changing in the near future is very difficult to see. But I think that the subsidy removal, if it was properly, if it was well managed, and if the money, the extra revenue or income that will come to government from the removal of subsidy would be judiciously used for the right things. We used to fund education, health services, and try to use it to close the infrastructure deficit gap. On the long run, it will be a good thing. So the fact that government now have more extra cash itself already have some positive spin-up for the economy. For example, the PMI figures that were released by Stanbic a few days ago suggest that the manufacturing output has improved slightly from 53.8% that it was in May to 54 in June. So that already shows that where there's more money, going to be more money available in the circulation, and because of that, you see that company executives are willing to spend more money. So I also understand that the inventory level has also slightly improved as well, which is good. So but what would be very, very devastating on the long run at the end would be if the money realized from fuel subsidy removal is not judiciously used for the benefit of the Nigerian people. If it ends up the same way that the subsidy payment went, that would be a tragedy. So we don't know. So we only need to keep our fingers crossed. So we don't know what President Tinubu will do.
So we don't know what we are expecting.
We don't know what we are expecting, but we will continue to have all those kind of issues that we have around low-level corruption, or those type of issues that we have around fear. The whole Nigerian system thrives now on fear. So people don't know what will happen to them. They don't know whether they will also have the same type of political appointment opportunities that they have today, if it will be there tomorrow. So when people live in fear, you can't stop them from trying to acquire as much as they can, because nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. So see what Nigerian system has turned into. If you want good education, you have to send your child abroad. If you want good healthcare services, you have to go abroad. So that's all very difficult to keep up with, right?
It is.
It is very difficult to keep up with. So, and you don't also pay the people the living wage or livable wage. So if you don't pay people well, and no one is sure about his or her future, and no one is sure about what the country has in stock for their children or children, then what other option or what other options do you have?
That is where we will come to the part of security. Before we go into security aspect, let's just quickly remind you that this is Let's Talk Show with Ehi Ekhator. We are talking about Nigerian situation. If you are just joining us, please don't forget to add your comment. We know we have some technical issues earlier, but it's stable right now. Don't forget to add your comments in the comment section. We'll be right back in just a short time. Don't stay away. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Ehi Ekhator with Let's Talk Show. So we were going to quickly go down to, I wanted Mr. Ogiehor to mention, just hint on the part of security, because there is the aftermath of mismanagement of the economy. There is the side effect of it all. Since we are talking about how bad, how corrupt the system is, we want to quickly just hint on the effect of the repercussion of not managing the economy well, and how that kind of boomerang into lack of investment. We talked about the mismanagement of the economy now, the corruption and all that stuff. Where does this lead to? Because we know that Nigeria security system now, because it's part of what will attract foreign investors in general. If they are not safe, their money is not safe. Nobody wants to put their money there in an economy with a country that is not safe. Or even we have many countries, they raise money through what they call through visitors, guests, people coming into the country to see, visit the country. Nigeria is very rare to find, because a lot of foreigners, they prefer to go to Ghana, go to other African countries rather than come to Nigeria. So what is the aftermath? What is the effect of this mismanagement or management of the economy? What do you think Nigerians are going to go into? Now we know how bad the economy is. We know how bad the security is. Where do you think it's still going to? Do you think that this is just the beginning, or it is going to get better?
I think we will get a bounce, right? Not just because the last regime was very bad, or that we have a new man at the hands of affairs, but also for the fact that now with the removal of subsidy, for example, government is going to have a bit of more money to spend, and the government spending in Nigeria is about 1/10 of the entire, cash injection into the economy. So, if they get their acts together quite rightly, they are able to get the budget passage on time, and they are serious about or committed to actually doing good work. We will then be able to capitalize on that bounce and be able to create probably maybe better opportunities for the economy to expand. So I expect that in the next few years we will probably maybe have a slight increase in our GDP numbers. So we'll probably maybe have growth. But that's not going to change Nigeria overnight. That's not going to stop people, for example, from living, right? Which is one of the existential challenges facing Nigeria today. You can't be losing the best talents that you have.
Because people are leaving the country.
So the problem is not just about the number of people living, but the problem is that the number of people who want to live, right? So almost everyone wants to leave the country, and that's a very serious essential issue. And one of the things too that the government have not been able to manage properly has been the intellectual and financial promise of this diaspora. So they have not been able to constructively engage their diaspora and be able to tap into that financial and intellectual promise. So if we have a new government now, so we don't know probably if they have steer the country towards that direction. They are probably maybe able to put some processes in place,
redirect it,
and have a situation where people are able to come in and invest, because diasporas are usually in every country usually the promoters of new nascent industries. So they come with so many different fresh ideas because of the fact that they have been exposed to different different professional ethics and all that. So that comes with quite a lot of benefit. We saw that also in around the 2007-2008 window with the Yaradua regime. President Yaradua, I mean, God bless his soul. Just that statement, that inaugural statement that he made, that Nigeria will be Nigeria will be governed by the rule of law. And that changed quite a lot of things. He did not just only say it, but he meant it as well, and he lived by it. And that kind of brought in
very rare.
Brought in investment into the country, and you could also see what the productivity boosts for the Nigerian workers were at that time. So you need someone that would provide the stability. You also need someone that will also be able to provide the direction. So one of the things that I usually always miss about the governance structure in Nigeria is that we don't know what we are about. So what are we pursuing? What's our strategy? So what do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? So for example,
just wing it.
For example, I'll give you an example of what happened in the 60s. Jamaica and Singapore were just around the same, were at par in terms of per capita income and the per capita GDP, right? And Jamaica decided that they were going to invest in tourism. They were going to go into tourism, open up their country, and let investment come in. So, and they did that quite well as well. And Singapore decided that they were going to invest in human capital, right? That they were going to try to be the best in the world in certain areas, right? In biomedical sciences and in so many other related areas as well. And they did that also quite well as well. So what happened at the end of the day is that if you compare those two countries today, Jamaica per capita income is somewhere around $4,000. But the Singaporean per capita income is in the excess of about $60,000. So what do you think has happened between those two countries? It is strategy, right?
And good leadership.
So good leadership. So it does not have anything to do with your choices, whether you decide to go into tourism or you decide to go into human capital development, but it has got quite a lot to do with what your strategy is, how you pursue your ideas and how you envision and how you put into what your goals, how you achieve your goals and your objectives. So at the end of the day, That's a little piece of puzzle that we don't actually see in Nigeria. Why? Because the government and the people in government especially are only concerned about the next election and how they will stay in power.
That is correct. So
one of the reasons why I actually so much like Governor Obaseki's policies in those states is that this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. I saying as someone who is focused on the next generation, not necessarily the next election. And then you also see how that really actually also played out in the election. So he's quite unpopular. So if you take those type of decisions and you are only focused on long-term objectives and you are focused on how to make the next generation better, are you going to get the votes in Nigeria? So that's also
it's difficult, but we do believe in the magical outcome. We want it to happen now.
People want to see physical development as well, so they want to be able to go to the ring road and see the water fountain transformation. Nobody cares about what the economic benefit of those type of choices are.
Obaseki's discussion will be another day. Let's jump quickly to before we go into another question for Mr. Ogiehor today. We'll quickly go for a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Right now we are back to Let's Talk Show with Ehi Ekhator. We have Paul Ogiehor in the studio today with us. We're talking so much about Nigeria's situation. He's giving us so much insight into the Nigerian problems and why we are where we are today. We are going to debate a little too the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and that of the People Democratic Party in the last presidential election, Mr. Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi respectively. Mr. Ogiehor, these two people, Mr. Atiku Abubakar has contested for so many times and he has lost elections several times. So it's now more like a perpetual loser. I will use them. It's not just me. Rauta and CNN, they all describe him as a perpetual loser because it's lost this last election. We don't know how the outcome is going to be, but this is where we are for now. Peter Obi was more loved by the youth, and a lot of people went out to vote for him despite the threats. So now that the election is where it is today, and he seems to have been denied his mandate, what do you think is the future for Mr. Obi? And how do you think he could get his position back, if possible?
I mean, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Obi, Governor Obi was a huge disappointment for me. What I mean by it was a huge disappointment for me, there were quite a lot of opportunities that he didn't take. Right? And so Obi himself was also over concerned about his own election. So he was so focused on winning and becoming Nigeria's president. So winning and becoming Nigeria's president is just only a piece of the puzzle. What about the governance? What about the making the governance structure easy for yourself? You will not believe that the Labour Party did not have 5 governorship candidates in 5 states. They did not have governorship candidates in 5 states. The Labour Party did not contest more than 50 National Assembly seats. Right? The Labour Party did not have party agents in so many polling booths in Nigeria. In some states, they even have less than 30%. That was, for me, that was a huge disappointment. So he did not really actually cash in to the hype of the movement. So the whole hype around the obedience movement was not about Mr. Obi. It was not about Mr. Obi. It was about the Nigerian youth. It was about the resentment that the Nigerian youth have for the political elite, the deprivation that they have suffered for so many years.
Obi seemed to connect with them.
So Obi was able to connect with them because they looked around. There was nothing and there was nobody else. So the issue that they had in PDP that actually caused that actually led to Obi walking away from PDP to the Labour Party. It was an opportunity for the youth to at least select somebody and line up behind that person. So,
other than the one they already know.
Yes, so Mr. Obi should have actually capitalized on that opportunity and tried to build the Labour Party from ground zero up. They didn't do that. What he was only concerned about was his own election, which is the presidential election. So even if he won, so many people now believe that he won that election. So even if he won the election and if he were to become the president, how would you be able to govern when you don't have enough
when the house
seats?
Is ruled by the opposition.
You don't have enough seats in the National Assembly, and the National Assembly will be controlled by the opposition party. So for me, Mr. Obi was a huge disappointment. So that's on one side. On the other side, I really couldn't actually see that policy articulation from him. Couldn't really see them that quite well. So there were some clips, video clips that I saw that I didn't believe that Mr. Obi would say something like that. For example, when he came to Chatham House and a young Nigerian asked him a question, and then he looked at her and said to her, "Oh, yeah, that's not Nigeria's priority right now. We are not talking about that as priority. We are not talking about that now. Nigeria is not Nigeria's priority. So there were so many things that he said or did that I didn't really quite understand. So, for example, I don't know whether it was an interview or something like that, and then he was saying he got an idea from a madman or something like that. I don't know what led to that comment. So, for me, I had my doubts about his capacity, and that has been proven now by the way that he organized his campaign and ran the election. And I also kind of had my doubts whether the entrenched power in Nigeria, whether they will actually allow him the opportunity to rule Nigeria. And we have seen that. So especially in the core north, there's a lot of resistance and opposition to him. I don't know whether that has got to do with where he comes from, whether because he's from the east, and that should actually be the case because we are all Nigerians, but there's a lot of resistance, especially from the core north.
Yeah, but you know that what makes Nigerians go after him is the idea that he was transparent enough, the idea that he knew what he was talking about. The other candidates, they were campaigning by attacking the opposition. Whenever Obi was invited to an occasion, it was an opportunity for him to throw in some data, to tell him what is happening somewhere. But even those data he was throwing in, some people questioned how authentic they were. But what he was doing, this was how he captured the Nigerian youth, because they wanted someone of high intellect, and they believed the other people that they were old-fashioned, they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. Recently, election is going on in one African country, and I've forgotten. There was an article recently that was really about 2 days ago, where the African, there's another country that was in Burkina Faso, I can't recall, where it's saying, please advising the politicians to behave like the Peter Obi of Nigeria. You can see that his charisma just didn't charm only Nigerian youth. It spread out of Nigeria to other African countries who believe that Peter Obi could be the right man for the position.
Mr. Obi is a complete gentleman. So I met him once in London. We met in the UK House of Commons, where we both had an invitation for an event that took place there. I have enormous respect for him, especially for some of the things that he did after he left office. The refusal to collect pension,
Yes.
not collecting cash from government every year, not accepting a house, not accepting domestic helps and all those things.
The typical bonuses for Nigerian politicians.
The typical perks of office that Nigerian ex-governors enjoy. So that it takes a very rare courage. It takes integrity and discipline for a Nigerian to a man to actually have
to reject such
that kind of
mouth-watering.
To have rejected those and for him to live that kind of exemplary life. So I have big respect for all that. So I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he wasn't fit for the job or that he wasn't especially looking at his antecedents and looking at his integrity and all that. So that's not the point. The point is those things don't put food on the table, right? They don't turn policies into great programs that will benefit the people. They don't turn intention or wishes into outcomes. So the comparison that for me that I was actually drawing for Mr. Obi was that if you look at what happened in Tanzania during late President Nyerere's time, President Nyerere was reputed to be one of the most incorruptible leaders that have ever come from this part of the world, from Africa, right? So even when he died, the people couldn't find a house or a piece of plot to bury him, or nothing tied to his name. The government has to probably put something together to find a final resting place for him. He did not steal the country, right? But look where he left his country. One of the poorest and most disadvantaged countries in the world. So it's not sufficient to have high integrity. Umari himself was also elected into power on the strength of his strength of his character, incorruptible, and all that type of rubbish. So at the end of the day, where are we? What happened? So, but compare that to Indonesia, for example, where when Suharto was president, what did he not do for the country? Country able to manufacture motor cars for the first time, even aeroplanes for the first time. He turned it into an export powerhouse and developed the economy, modernized the economy, and turned the whole fortune of the country around. But people will tell you that man was very, very corrupt, that he had houses all over the world. He even handed power to, with people within his own family clan. I think the current president of Indonesia is a nephew of his, right? So that dynasty is still there. So for me, it's the first choice for me is about the capacity to govern, capacity to turn ideas and policies into actionable programs that will benefit the people. So it's not sufficient for you to say, "Oh, I'm an upright man. I will not steal any money. I will not." So corruption is not a Nigerian thing. Corruption is everywhere. So I'll give you an instance of what is actually happening around the world. You know that between 2020 or 2019, end of 2019 till now, we're talking about the period of the pandemic now. About 40 new billionaires have been made in the pharmaceutical industry. 40 new billionaires in the pharmaceutical industry.
From the suffering of the people.
From the suffering of the people, cashing in on the crisis of the people, cashing in on a pandemic that has had devastating effect on the world. It didn't just stop there. In the US 2020 election, about 75% of US congressmen got donations from at least one pharmaceutical company. So the whole idea of corruption, people are corrupt in Nigeria and all that, there's corruption everywhere.
We're not saying that what they want is at least to a certain variable minimum.
Yeah, but in this part of the world, they have got robust systems and robust processes in place. So the whole system, the whole country is able to absorb those shocks. Right? But in Nigeria, because of the fragility of our economy and the fragility of our system, so corruption is such a big issue, such a big thing in Nigeria. So I will appreciate, I do appreciate the fact that Mr. Obi is an upright man. There were quite a lot of things that he refused while he was in office, and quite a lot of things that he did. But there were also so many things that he said that I didn't think were sustainable as well. So, for example, when he says something about, oh, I went to every school and I gave my direct telephone number to every head prefect. So if there was a problem in the school, call me directly. So you can't micromanage Nigeria like that. So you can't be everywhere all at the same time. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to work with people. Right? So you do not only need to work with people, you also need to work with them with trust, so that you can get the best out of them.
Yeah,
so
I think it doesn't trust a lot of people.
Yes, so those were the issues that I had with his candidacy. That's the reason why I didn't really actually come out to support him. But he led a movement, in my opinion, a movement that has changed Nigeria forever. So no one is going to be able to take Nigeria for granted now anymore. So I know that the political class want to perpetuate themselves.
Raise the bar.
The political class want to perpetuate themselves in power. But sooner or later, that will not be possible anymore. So what was the role of godfathers in this last election? So how many godfathers failed by the roadside?
Yeah, because people were determined.
How many unknown people won elections to positions that nobody expected, right? To look at the senator we have today now, or Edosa, nobody even know who he is. I don't even know who he is, to be honest. Yeah, but people voted for him. So the youth wanted to demonstrate, they wanted to actually show that the so-called political electoral power rests in us. After all, the average age of Nigerian is just only about 22. So, and you can see that it's really mass discontent. So how you have a situation, for example, where someone has someone left school more than 4-5 years ago and still has not got a job.
Well, thank you for that. We are going to draw one last question before we go. But in the meantime, just stay tuned. Let's quickly go for our usual short break. All right, welcome back. So we are very close to the end of the program today. So we have one last question for Mr. Ogiehor, who is in the studio with us today to talk about Nigerian situation. The last question we have for Mr. Ogiehor is this: in Nigeria, there is a single blame attitude, right? And Buhari came in, everybody expected Buhari to perform magic. Right, and because he made the promise, but we also understand it's more of a centralized system. But don't you think that is one of the major problems in Nigeria, where we expect the president to be the one to take responsibilities for the failure of the senators, of the head of Parastata, of the governor? It looks like the administration of this president was bad. There is a local government chairman, there is a governor, there is a senator, there is a House of Reps, that these people, they've done nothing. No one is actually holding them responsible. But if we hold political party responsible, we hold an individual, which usually is the president. So is that not a problem to the fight against corruption in Nigeria? I mean, as far as Nigerian youths are concerned.
Nigeria is a great country, right? The resilience of the Nigerian people, and in the midst of plenty. There is widespread poverty, and there is widespread corruption, and there are so many difficult problems that no one can explain or no one can put any meaning into, right? So why would Nigerians be suffering in the 21st century where, you know, access to resources or access to human or material resources is almost unlimited. It's almost limitless, right? So there is almost no limit to what you can achieve. Why would Nigerians still be suffering? Why can't we get our act together? Why are Nigerians so dynamic and helping other economies and the best Wall Street brokers in the world? They are the best what I'll call whatever sector or services you can think of. Nigerians are the best around the world. So if you go everywhere you go to the US, Nigerians are the most educated group
of the migrants.
Yes, in the US. Even not just the migrants, even compared to the indigenous. So, and then everyone now then continue to ask the question, why are we still suffering? Why are we still in all of these problems and all these issues? When the Nigerian is only okay when they leave the country, but when they are in Nigeria, it's a different story altogether. I don't think it has anything to do with us as a people, it has anything to do with Nigeria. You know, the determination to be free is inherent in every human being. So every human being wants to be able to have a roof over their head. They want to be able to have access to cheap and accessible means of transport to be able to move from one place to the other. They want to be able to feed and clothe themselves, right? So these are just very basic human needs that everyone wants to satisfy. But it's a very difficult thing in Nigeria because of the economic situation that we find ourselves in. And it's difficult to point accusing finger at one person or at one regime. So the military did their part. They also did not take advantage of the opportunities that they had. So we had a civilian regime came and they changed everything around and things were moving in the right direction. And at the end of the day, we as Nigerians should take the full responsibility for making the mistake of choosing a disastrous government, the government that we have had for the past 8 years. No, everyone will agree that there has been a serious mistake. So all these things are all connected with economics, right? They're all connected with the fact that there are not enough of economic opportunities for the people. So culture cannot be clearly separated from economics, right? So in the 16th century, if you go to the Royal Museum in London, you will discover that in the 16th century, you still saw a photograph of London. London was a gated city. People were having their hands chopped off because of the rich watches that they had. And all of that also have changed now. So if we are able to have a dedicated leadership in Nigeria, it's not one person. It's not about having just the president, the figurehead. Of course,
that is my question.
Of course, you need the president or the figurehead or whoever that person is to a vision and an agenda that everyone can rally around. But you need a whole of dedicated people. So you need, in my opinion, so if you want to be serious about running a government that is committed to changing things, you have to have not less than 50, 100 people in government that are dedicated to the same and committed to the same cause.
Yeah, but my question
it's
is...
It's difficult to get that in Nigeria.
Yeah, my question is, why are Nigerians only blaming the president when they are ministers of power, minister of road and transport, minister of culture? If the aspect, if the ministry, a particular ministry is not performing well, isn't it wise to hold that minister responsible instead of holding the president responsible? I'm just saying that we are very obsessed. We tend to hold the president responsible for all the atrocities, all their own appointees. I get their appointees. But people need to take personal responsibilities.
Yeah, but that's also rightly so. So because both political and economic power are also concentrated at the center. Can you imagine, for example, that Downsing Street in Benin is a federal road? So how would somebody in Abuja know that there is a pothole in Dowsing Street in Benin City and come and fix the road?
Unless there is somebody that informs them.
So the whole concept of devolution of power and making sure that the resources are more available locally so that they could also solve local problems is also part of the problem. So you have a concentration of political and economic power in just the hands of a few people at the center. And these people, because they hold the power and they have access to nearly almost everything, they are able to lord it over everybody. So, and at the end of the day, you can't challenge them, right? So, you want to go in for the next election, they will send security apparatus from Abuja to suppress the will of the people. So, it's a difficult thing. So, I can understand the reason why people are always blaming the president or always blaming the federal government, because the political power and economic power are also concentrated there. So I don't know who is going to be president after the court ruling. So if it's Mr. Tinubu, I think he should take a serious look at that. Right? So a lot of people have been talking about restructuring or whatever in any sense, but it has to be some form of devolution of power, and that devolution of power must also come with the resources as well, so that local people then can continue to tackle local problems. You're talking about a local government. A friend of mine, I have had so many very close friends who have been local government chairmen. So they will tell you in private that after you finish paying salaries, local government employees' salary.
There's no money left.
I think they also pay the salary of primary school teacher. There's nothing left. You know you have to fix that road, but where's the money to fix the road? You know what I mean? They are all no money. They are all in Abuja.
And that's the point of the local government autonomy that we're talking about the last time, isn't it?
Yes. Local government autonomy, and governors in Nigeria have been fighting against that because they do benefit from it, right? So many of them sit on local government funds, yeah. So because they are able to do with the local government whatever they like, many of them they don't allow election to take place. Even when election takes place, they don't allow the opposition to have any chance of coming in there. So at the end of the day, it's not actually the center that's the local government problem. It's actually the governors that are the major or the biggest problem of the obstacle of the local government. But that apart, what they get as resource allocation from the foundation account is also too small. It can't really do that much of a thing. So I think we should then now start to see that we devolve power to the local authority, local government and state, and that we also let the resources go with them, right? So let them get a bigger share of the foundation.
So because they are the closest to the people.
Yeah, they are the closest to the people. They are the ones that feel the issues the most, and they are the ones that can actually see the problems firsthand, right? So it's not really a system that is really better suited to the Nigerian situation. But we don't have a choice. We are in the presidential system. We are in it already.
Well, you've heard it all today from Mr. Ogiehor. He's been talking a lot about the Nigerian situation, corruption, presidency, and the future of the country and the Nigerian youth. I want to say thank you for joining us today. We hope to have you back in the studio to talk about the Edo State politics and development. We will talk about other things that will be developing or unraveling as we progress in Mr. Tinubu's presidency.
My pleasure.
All right. We are going to round up now, but before we go, let's just quickly remind you that this program is done every Saturdays at 7 p.m. and you can tune in. We always have a number on the screen for you to call in and join the conversation. I understand that there have been some confusion today because we do have a couple of videos on our fan page now because of the technical challenges we had today. But if by next week, well, I believe this will be resolved completely, you can always join the conversation by making your comment right on the comment section. You share the video, or you can just give us a phone call on the number that is shown on the screen at the moment. Thank you for joining us all the time. We do hope that you have a time to join us next week. You have a wonderful weekend and take care.